If it's Monday night, oh yes it is, Ridiculously Raw. Hello friends, Ridiculously Over Anthony Flair here with you for another all-new edition of Ridiculously Raw here on the Tone 25. We appreciate you joining us as always. Delighted to be here. And well, 24 hours ago, we had what some considered a very disappointing and underwhelming SummerSlam at the Barclays last night. And well, needless to say, this Monday Night Raw was anything but disappointing tonight. I'm going to be real honest with you. I honestly thought this Raw tonight was I thought even was actually a little bit better than SummerSlam. I'm going to be real honest with you, because we had a lot of big things. We had a lot of well, let's just say it was a newsworthy edition of Raw tonight, a very newsworthy show. And without any further ado, let's just set it up. Let's just set the table here. Phenom Michael Bullock will be joining us late. He will be coming in a little bit later on. We don't know exactly when he's going to be coming in, but he will be here at some point. And when he does come in, we'll catch him up on what he missed, as always. I'm sure we'll hear from the Hardcore Pipe Bomb, Derek Ferreira, as he was at the show tonight in Brooklyn. I don't know if he's going to be joining us, but I sent the invite out to him, so we'll see if he joins us or not. But what I can tell you is I'm right here, of course, with the host of Cerebral Smack Talk and the Cerebral Viper, Michael Fletcher, along with the Twisted Angel, D.D. Woodson. And like I said, very newsworthy edition of Monday Night Raw tonight, and a show that I thought was actually better than SummerSlam. I'm going to be real honest with you, and it was. And that's saying a lot. So with all that being said, we're going to run down this Monday Night Raw tonight. Needless to say, we're not going to be doing much cutaways here. There will be some cutaways, but not as many as we usually do, and that's a good thing. The less cutaways, the better. So we're going to review this, and then of course I'll have my Tony's take on the Cruiserweight Classic, the latest installment of that, and then of course Impact Wrestling. And you thought there were some big things going down here on this Raw tonight. There's also some big things going down in Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling, equally newsworthy, if I do say so myself, especially after that last show on Thursday night. So, all right. So with that being said, let's dive right in. And of course, it was live tonight from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, 3 nights in a row. Saturday night we had NXT Takeover Brooklyn 2. Last night we had SummerSlam, and now we have Monday Night Raw here tonight. And it started off with some very sad news, and of course, sad news has been the theme of this year, unfortunately, and it gets worse. Finn Balor, the Demon King, 24 hours ago, makes history and becomes the first ever WWE Universal Champion, defeating Seth Rollins in what was the second best match of SummerSlam last night. What happened here, what we didn't know until late overnight, or early this morning, or early today, Finn Balor suffered a severe shoulder injury at the hands of Seth Rollins during that match. Early in the match, Seth Rollins powerbombed Finn Balor onto the barricade, and the severity of it caused Balor to hurt his shoulder. Balor popped the shoulder back into it, popped it back into his own socket, finished the match, and won the title. Well, during a public appearance on the Good Morning America this morning, he experienced some discomfort in that shoulder throughout the day, went to a doctor, and the doctor determined that you're going to need surgery. Not what a WWE superstar, especially a world champion, wants to hear. Finn Balor is going to be out 6 months. What a loss for all of us here in the WWE Universe. And what a loss for Finn Balor. Finn Balor, because of this, has had no choice but to relinquish the WWE Universal Championship to General Manager Mick Foley and Commissioner Stephanie McMahon. But what happened was, as Balor was done, giving his speech and leaving the ring, Seth Rollins comes out, and then he gets interrupted by Sami Zayn, and then Chris Jericho comes out, Kevin Owens, Enzo and Cass, and then finally Roman Reigns. And then Mick Foley, you know, saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. Tonight we're going to have a series of matches. And the winners of these matches will compete next week for the right to become the second Universal Champion. So this was definitely one of the segments of the night, and Balor handled the situation very well. I like that he was upbeat despite the circumstances, and I also like that he was complimentary of Rollins, and that Rollins didn't return the favor. Raw is in Houston next week. It's surely friendlier territory for Reigns than Brooklyn is, for whatever that's worth. So, but a great promo by Finn Balor. It's a damn shame that we're going to be losing him for 6 months. But hey, barring any setbacks, the good news is he'll be back in plenty of time for WrestleMania. And I'm going to make a bold statement here and now. Finn Balor is going to be challenging for that Universal Championship at WrestleMania. Not only is he going to be challenging for that title at WrestleMania, I'm going to go as far as to say he's going to regain it in Orlando, Florida, on April 2nd, 2017. You heard that here first. So that's all I can say about it. And I mean, Foley and Stephanie there, trying to make sense of the situation there. They look like deers in the headlights a little bit, as all those guys were in their faces, talking about who they think should be in line for the belt. So, but what I liked about the segment was especially Finn Balor, handling it with the class and professionalism that only a true champion does. So, and we'll get more into those series, and this is actually one of those 2-for-1 deals. That's right. And we had the first match of this series of matches, and it was Seth Rollins going one-on-one with the underdog of the Underground, Sami Zayn, and the winner of the match, unfortunately I don't have a time of the fall, Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins wins the match with the pedigree. This was one of my fights of the night for sure. It's definitely one of the fights of the night. This was, I could probably say, at worst, second best fight of the night. Because this was a really good match. 3.5 stars is my rating for it. It was entertaining with Sami playing his familiar underdog role, only this time while doing it on one leg. If you notice during the bout, Sami Zayn, tried to counteract Seth Rollins, and while doing so, jumped off the rope, and as he did it, he landed awkwardly on his right ankle. Now, I don't know if that's a legitimate injury. Let's pray to God that it's not, because we've had enough, injuries and wellness violations to last us a lifetime. And we've already lost Finn Balor. I hope we don't lose Sami Zayn. But we'll try to keep an eye on that. I'm hoping it's not a legitimate injury, because the last thing we need is another popular guy in the IWC, which Sami Zayn is, to be a casualty, just like Finn Balor and those wellness violations. So the segment was fine for what it was. It wasn't. I don't know if I can really call it the segment of the night, but the series of matches, and next Monday night we will crown a new Universal Champion, and the first spot goes, no big surprise, to the architect Seth Rollins in a great match over Sami Zayn. At worst, second best fight of the night to me. 3.5 stars, a phenomenal match. So with that being said, I'm going to throw it up now to the host of the Cerebral Smack Talk and our resident Cerebral Viper, the one and only good old MF, Mike Fletcher. So, MF, your thoughts on that segment as well as that first match in the series with Rollins and Zayn?
Well, unfortunately, like I said, Anthony, I was working tonight, so I'm going to have to refrain from the matches. However, I want to put my 2 cents in about the news about, unfortunately, Finn Balor have to relinquish the WWE Universal title, which is, my heart breaks for him, man. That's a tough way. You bust your butt, you work your tail to get to the main roster, to get a mega push on your first night on the main roster, to be incorporated in this new format, to be in a contender spot for the WWE Universal title, to win the title at SummerSlam one night, last night, and now to have to forfeit the belt and to be sidelined for 6 months with what was being called a partial torn labrum in the shoulder. That's what it is, and I mean, it's as bad as it could be. It's a horrific way to lose. But I also got to, and there's one other thing, and the IWC is really taking aim at, and that's at Seth Rollins. Because think about it, the they're saying he suffered the injury when he did that powerbomb maneuver outside of the ring, and that's when he got hung up on that barricade and went shoulder first into the barricade. And think about it, that's the same move he injured Sting with, that in no sense of the word ended Sting's career because of that move. So for me, Seth Rollins has got to be a lot more careful, or they gonna have to outlaw that move from him ever using that move ever again, because he's already injured 2 superstars because of that move. So I don't know what to say about that. But like I said, my heart breaks for Finn Balor, because I mean, oh God, man, it stinks. It stinks that he had to relinquish the belt, because he was going to be a great champion. I mean, I have nothing but love for Finn Balor. I wish him nothing but the best, speedy recovery. Like I said, I can't talk about the fight, so technically, Dee Woodson, I give it to you, my dear.
Uh, I'm not going to say that that was a segment of the night either. It was a really good segment. There was a lot going on during it. Although I did miss about half of the segment because at the time I was in the kitchen, but I did see the first match, and that was kind of nasty ankle injury that Zayn could possibly have, because he was really favoring the leg throughout the whole match. But a thumbs up for Zayn for just sticking it out even with the injury to at least finish the match even though he lost. And congratulations to Rollins for advancing. And we'll just kind of have to wait and see throughout the rest of the night who the other players will be in the Fatal 4-Way match that will be next week. But I definitely agree with you, Florio, on the rating, so I'll toss it back to you.
All right. So I'm just very curious about I don't know how many things Michael Fletcher can review on this show tonight, because I know he worked.
I probably will only be able to review basically from 10:30 on. I'll basically hit you up on, basically I could do the Braun Strowman squash, which I think we're not going to cover at all.
No, we're not.
And then I can cover basically Jericho versus Roman Reigns. But other than that, that's practically it. And the Dudley Boyz goodbye, I can cover that. But other than that, I'm out for the rest of the show.
All right, fair enough. So with that being said, let's move on. Let's dive in. Dee Woodson and I will run the 2-person weave here. That is until Michael Bullock comes in, and or Derek. So with that being said, let's move on to our next match, and it was the second match of our Universal Championship Series. It was Kevin Owens going up against the man that gravity forgot, Adrian Neville. Winner of the match in 8 minutes and 30 seconds, it was Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, not with a pop-up powerbomb, but he used a torture rack into a neck breaker and scored the win. Yeah, you could say he had a little help from Chris Jericho. So Owens wins it. He joins Seth Rollins in that Universal 4-Way next week. So, Dee Woodson, your thoughts on Kevin Owens and Adrian Neville's bout here?
I thought it was a fairly good match. I do agree with Owens a little bit later when they had an interview backstage when he said, well, he really didn't need Jericho out there. I don't really like when they have someone come out to try to interfere in, even if it is just the mind game type interference, but still that it was enough to get Neville off of his game enough for KO to pick up the win. And like I said, though, it was a really good match. I was really glad to see all the back and forth and all the action they were able to come out with. I'm going to give it 3 stars for the match, even though Jericho did uh, come out. So I'll toss it back.
I definitely agree with that, Edie Woodson. Solid 3 stars as well. I mean, it was definitely a good match, and these two have had some good matches before, and this was one of them here. This wasn't the best match between them, but it was still a very good match. There was some good near falls in this one. A little slow early, but it picked up, and we got some good near falls down the stretch, some believable near falls, and yeah, Kevin Owens advancing to the Universal Championship 4-way next week, so I'm not at all surprised by this outcome either. So nice win for him. So all right, so what now? What happened now? What happened next was New Day, the WWE World Tag Team Champions, the New Day, 365 days and counting as champions. They come out and then they do the little promo, and then they get interrupted by Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, and then it led into a match with the returning Biggie Langston. Biggie Langston returned at SummerSlam last night. He's there, and he went 1-on-1 with Carl Anderson. Biggie Langston wins the match with the big ending. Didi Woodson, it's up to you. I don't know if you want to get into this or not, but I don't know if this is relevant to you, if it's relevant enough for you, or before we dive in.
I don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to. I mean, because I know this feud has been lacking and whatnot, but
it was very boring. So if I was even rated at all, I'd probably give it about a star. But other than that, it's not worth.
Not worth. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to be sure on that. So, but you know me, I always want to inform the fans who want to know what happens. So, Biggie Langston won the match. He beats Carl Anderson. Yeah, like I said, there weren't too many cutoffs, and unfortunately, this is going to have to be one of our cutoffs here. So we're not going to get into it. But Biggie's back. That's all that's standing. And yes, there is another cutoff here. Titus O'Neil came out, and he recalled a year ago that him and Darren Young were the tag team champions, and then Bob Backlund comes out, and then nonsense here. So yeah, I mean, that was awful. I mean, they need a good match or segment, or this crowd is going to lose interest and start amusing themselves. And I mean, yeah, when you have a rabid IWC crowd in one of the major IWC hotspots of Brooklyn, New York, last thing you want to do is bore them to tears. And that segment right there with the primetime players, the former primetime players, and Bob Backlund, yeah, that bored them to tears, as well as myself and Didi Woodson. And Michael Fletcher, lucky for you, you didn't have to work. So, I mean, lucky for you, you had to work, I should say, because that would have been a waste of your time right there. So we're just going to skip over that. That's irrelevant. So, but now we're going to get back into some relevant stuff here. The third match of our Universal Championship Series, United States Heavyweight Champion Rusev with his wife, the Ravishing Russian Lana, going up against Big Cass with Enzo Amore. Winner of the match via a countout in 7 minutes and 40 seconds. How about this? Big Cass. Big Cass wins the match via a countout. I could probably only give this about 2 to 2.25 stars for the effort. A surprising outcome. I honestly thought Rusev was going to go over, especially with Roman in the mix. I mean, that would have been very interesting. But so yeah, the entire broadcast team was really praising Rusev and talking about how bad his ribs were bothering him. Corey Graves laid it on a little thicker as the color commentator, and Colin Saxton ended up mocking him for comparing Rusev to Balor. But I'll tell you what, I mean, solid, okay match for what it was, and hey, a surprising outcome. I mean, who really thought Big Cass was actually going to find his way into the Universal Championship match next week? I certainly didn't. So this is definitely my shocker of the night, to be real honest with you. So with that being said, 2 to 2.25 stars. So Didi Woodson, Big Cass, and Rusev. Your thoughts on the match? And how surprised are you that Big Cass actually got the Duke here and is actually going to be in that Universal main event next week?
Yeah, I'm real surprised that Big Cass got the win on this one. I do agree with the rating. I did think that was kind of a cheap win, though, with Rusev just walking out, but he did play up the injury very well with the ribs. I kind of agree with the announcers. You know, this was Rusev's chance for once to kind of play victim and play up an injury that he doesn't usually do. Usually he's the aggressor and everything. So this time he got to kind of play the other end a little bit. So, you know, it was a good, really good match, and you know, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't, you know, wasn't one of the top matches of the night, but it, you know, for what it was worth, it was very good. So back to you.
All right. Let's see what's next. Okay. Then we had the new WWE Women's Champion Charlotte, along with Dana Brooke. They came to the ring for a promo, and then they were interrupted by Mick Foley, the general manager, and you know, Charlotte basically, you know, mocked Sasha Banks, you know, did her usual shtick, and then that brings out Mick Foley, and Mick Foley says, "Hey, Charlotte, well, Stephanie and I, we signed a new talent to the women's division, and ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to bring her out right now, the new assignee to the Monday Night Raw women's division. It's Bayley. Bayley is there. Bayley is here. Bayley has finally been called up to the main roster. This was expected after the send-off she got Saturday night in Brooklyn after losing to Asuka. And, yep. And let me tell you right now, before I throw it to Didi Woodson, let me just say it like this. Did you hear that place pop for her? Oh, my goodness. That's one of the biggest IWC pops I have heard in a very long time. And Didi Woodson, our resident women's expert here, as I bring you in, I know you can't stand Charlotte and Dana Brooke. I understand that, but I know you're with us in the majority of the IWC that couldn't be any more delighted that the sweetheart of the IWC has finally been called up to the main roster. Long deserved.
Oh yeah, it was awesome to actually see Bayley finally up there, and you know, with all the ladies that have been out due to as they're putting in WWE injuries and stuff, when that's actual suspensions, you know, it's good to see, you know, a fresh face in there, and one who is very familiar with everybody that's in the game here. You know, Dana didn't seem like she was ready for this match, even though she was dressed for it. Charlotte just kind of threw her out there, you know, sink or swim. You know, that's pretty much what she was doing. And a lot of barking on the outside, telling Dana, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to cover, you need to stay on top of her, all this kind of stuff. But all in all, you know, it wasn't your typical diva fight. It was actually a very good match with these two girls, and you can tell that Dana's still learning a few things in the ring, but yeah, that they definitely played very well off of each other, and congratulations to Bayley for finally making it up. She definitely deserved it, being the free agent as of NXT Saturday night, and then immediately getting on Raw, which we all pretty much thought that was eventually going to happen, and we're all pretty glad that she did finally make it up there. So it's time to see now what she can do as she's heading straight into a possible title match with Charlotte coming up, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks or the next pay-per-view. So we'll just have to wait and see here. For me, I'm going to give the match 2.5 to 3 stars, because the girls just tore up the ring, and it wasn't as good as the SummerSlam match with Charlotte, but man, it was definitely better than what we usually get on Raw for these girls. So thumbs up to WWE for actually pulling off a divas match, or a women's match, that we can actually be proud of, and give them pops for. So I'll toss it back to you now.
Yeah. Wow. Like I said, I mean, did you hear that pop? That's all I can say. Did you hear that pop when her music came on? Oh my Lord in heaven! That was one of the biggest IWC pops I've heard in a long time. And Michael Fletcher knows how much I love IWC pops, and this is definitely going to rank right up there as far as IWC pops go. My Lord, like I said, I could not be any more happy to see Bayley finally called up to the main roster. I just wonder if Vince McMahon even realizes how much money he left on the table by not calling her up sooner and rebooting her NXT storyline, so that the entire WWE audience got to see the underdog story play out. That was one of my segments of the night for sure. I mean, based on Bayley being there alone, and I mean, that was awesome. And then Bayley goes up against Dana Brooke. Bayley wins the match in 4 minutes and 25 seconds. With all due respect, Dee Woodson, I think you overscored this just a little bit, if I'm going to be real honest with you, because it was such a short match. I don't think it was 2.5 to 3 worthy. I am, however, going to give it about 2 to 2.25, though, for that effort. I'll meet you halfway there. Solid debut for Bayley, thanks mostly to how much the live crowd adores her. I wonder if she would have debuted earlier in the show if it hadn't been for the Balor injury. You'd think they'd want to leave her out there earlier in the show to introduce her to younger viewers. But nonetheless, though, another one of the big newsworthy highlights of this newsworthy Monday Night Raw tonight. I mean, Bayley finally getting her long overdue call up to the main roster, and Dee Woodson makes a great point. It's going to lead to a title feud with Bayley and Charlotte, and I'll tell you what. Derek Ferreira, our Imperial Grand Poobah and Hardcore Pipe Bomb, if you read his sports blog earlier, he did a prediction blog, a predicting the card blog. He does. You know how he does it before pay-per-views. He predicted the card for the Clash of the Champions, which is the first Raw brand exclusive pay-per-view next month in Indianapolis. And what did he have for the Women's Championship? Charlotte versus Bayley. So he's absolutely right on this. Dee Woodson, you're absolutely right on this, and that's when I think it's going to happen. It's going to be Charlotte. It's going to be Bayley. It's going to be the Women's Championship, and it's going to be at the Clash of the Champions. And I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna make a bold prediction right here and now. I think Bayley's going to win the belt. I do. That's just how I feel. So I don't know if Michael Fletcher wants to share his thoughts on this, but if not, we can just move on. I'll move on to.
Like I said, I won't talk about the fight, but I will talk about the newsworthiness. And this is a great moment for WWE and a great moment for all the fans. I mean, they've been begging for Bailey to come for a number of years now. You've always been hearing the chant, "Hey, we want some Bailey." Well, guess what, Brooklyn? You got her, and then some. And you heard? Didn't you hear the chant? Were they doing it about you know,
Yes,
uh,
they were. Yes, there
they,
were those. There were chants of "We want Bailey" while Charlotte was delivering her promo, and
of course. So they wanted Bailey. They wanted her to come to WWE. They've been begging for it. We heard the rumor about her possibly being in the draft. It didn't happen. People were pissed about that. And then we were like, okay, wait a minute, let's see what happens. Then we thought about it. We're like, wait a minute, she's got to fight Asuka. That was going to be for the NXT Women's title. Maybe after that, maybe this will be it. And then after you saw the fight and they gave her that great ovation, that standing ovation, it kind of started tinkering in our head like, okay, Bailey, it's almost imminent now that Bailey's coming to WWE. And guys, look what happened. We got it. So I'm probably gonna get a little laugh from Dee Woodson, and I know Anthony Florio loves when I do this. But one chant that you're gonna hear a lot come from now on is gonna be, "Hey, hey, Bailey, I wanna know, will you be my girl?" You're gonna hear a lot of that from now on, guys. So, Bailey, welcome to the WWE. Welcome to Monday Night Raw. It's about darn time. Another night, a glorious night. No pun intended, but Florio, it's yours.
yeah, you gotta teach me that song, that little song and dance you just did, in case there's ever in case this single guy ever wants to court somebody. Oh, I like that. I like that. Well done. I mean,
All right.
we all know Michael Fletcher's the crooner of the group. So yeah, and you are. You are the king of karaoke nonetheless. So
Thanks.
yeah, even though I've never seen you in action, but
Yeah, one day.
oh, almost definitely one day. All right, fun and games aside, let's move on as we continue on with this Monday Night Raw review. We have to go back to a cutaway segment here. Braun Strowman with another squash, squashing some Hammernager by the name of Johnny Knockout. He knocked him out in 1 minute and 20 seconds. And now this is when we're going to get into the fun stuff here. And then enter the Dudley Boyz. The Dudley Boyz come out for what was being known as their farewell to the WWE Universe. They cut a great promo, and then they get interrupted by the Shining Stars, Primo and Epico. And then the Dudleys got over on Primo and Epico. They got the best of them. However, they did not get the. What happened was Anderson and Gallows rear their ugly heads again, and they take out the Dudleys, including a magic. They do a magic killer on Bubba through on the floor outside the ring, and then they do a magic killer on Devon through a table. So there's nothing left for me to say here except this was the fight of the night. This was the segment of the night for me. And wow, no Bubba turn on Devon to launch a singles run. Are they setting up a Dudleys versus Anderson and Gallows match, or was this really the swan song for the Dudleys in WWE? It was odd to hear Devon heaping praise on WWE without mentioning ECW. It was even stranger to see the Shining Stars interrupt. Fortunately, the Anderson and Gallows attack was strong, and the mic work of Corey Graves was strong too. Whether the Dudleys' retirement is a work or a shoot, the live crowd was really hot for them, because it was a year ago tonight, the night after SummerSlam, that they made their debut on Monday Night Raw, and we all remember how big that pop was. So there's really nothing left for me to say here except this was the segment of the night, and now I can say we can finally bring Michael Fletcher in. So, Michael Fletcher, you said you could talk about this. So
I was there.
Yep,
I witnessed this.
Yep, and you hit me up on the phone. We actually did the final 30 or so minutes of Monday Night Raw, and this is where it started. So your thoughts on this segment? This was the segment of the night. I don't know about you.
it was a great segment because it was an emotional segment. It felt, it felt like a definite goodbye. It felt legit. It felt real, and it felt like they weren't forcing it. They were giving the love to the New York crowd, and this is why we loved the Dudleys. And the Dudleys have always been one of those teams there, love them or you hate them. They were gonna always keep it real with you, keep it 100, and that's what they did. This was, I thought, an excellent job. I really liked how they played it. To me, this was a great gimmick. This was a great segment. This was a great. Um, this ended a very good Monday night. This was strong. I liked it. I thought it was, like I said, I really felt the love from the crowd, and of course we're gonna miss. I don't know if this was the end of the Dudleys. I doubt it, but I will say this: that if they really made it feel like this was gonna be goodbye, that we were gonna miss you, we were gonna love you, the whole 9 yards, and then when Anderson and Gallows showed up and just beat the living daylights out of them, forget about the Shining Stars. I mean, the Shining Stars were there. That was just more filler so that the fans can, get whatever they need to get. But when we saw the attack by Anderson and Gallows, holy heck, man! I mean, that was absolutely something to behold, and even I was even jaw dropped on that. But it was a solid segment. It was definitely good, no doubt about it. Segment of the night, absolutely yes, 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 yes. But I will say this, guys, it just started a war because I think now, Gallows and Anderson, you just started a fight with those damn Dudleys. I hope you're prepared for what's gonna happen next. So with that said, loved it, amazing, nothing more to say. Um, Didi, what's in this? Yours, my dear.
Yeah, it was definitely segment of the night, and I've got Bubba's Twitter page up because earlier in the evening, Velvet said she'd see him at home, and basically his last couple of tweets here were thanking WWE and the universe. It's time. See you on Raw and see you down the road. Our work here is done. Thank you to WWE, WWE Universe, and to the boys. It was our pleasure to see you all again. See you down the road. So, it's not saying that. Well, there's a picture of Orton. It's not saying that that's entirely over, but I do think this was probably their swan song for right now. Whether or not they go on or not, that's a whole different story. Um, I know they do have as you can see right here, they've got a school where they're teaching um, wrestling and stuff. So we'll just kind of have to see what happens here with that. But it was definitely the segment of the night. You could tell Bubba was a little emotional. He's trying not to let it show, but you could kind of tell. He was a little emotional with it, and they did pretty much end it the way they wanted. That Devon said that we're going out the way we want to go out, and they definitely did, and they mentioned a lot of the great matches they've had, and mentioned Edge and Christian and the Hardys from the TLC matches they've had, and it was really good to hear them give pops to some of the other teams that was right there with them as they were rising up in WWE. And the Dudleys have had an awesome career with uh, ECW, WCW, even Bubba over in TNA. They've had an awesome career, and everywhere they've wrestled, they've been able to, make their way or claw their way to the top of whatever they were doing. And if it wasn't for teams like them, we wouldn't have the tag team division we have now. Even Demolition and some of the older teams, that they all paved the way for what the tag team wrestling we have today. And for me, this was, just, it's bittersweet to see them go out. And getting to see one last table, even though it was Devon who went through it, it was still awesome to see. And to hear the crowd just saying all of it right along with them. And it was really great. I was kind of hoping it would have been the Shining Stars going through the table, but of course, whoever puts the table up usually is the one who goes through the table, and WWE pretty much kind of proved that tonight as they put Devon through it. So definitely segment of the night, and definitely a very emotional a segment, but at the same time very, very well done. And how many tag teams or guys that have been through the type of matches they have can actually say they went out without having an injury taking them out. Not very many. So this was really good to actually see them get to go out the way they wanted to go out, injury free, and right there, still in the top of the game, still in the still able to compete if they wanted to. But 20 years, that's a long time for anyone in this business. As we all know, it's a very hard business to be in. They always, you hear by saying wrestling's fake. It's not fake, because these guys do really get hurt. You can tell from last night with Randy Orton having the stitches. So I'm going to toss it over to Florio.
Yes, toss it back to me, Didi Whitson, because the Phenom Michael Bullock has just joined us. We got Bullock here. We're going to catch him up here on what he's missed so far as part of this Monday Night Raw review. Michael Bullock, a newsworthy show, to say the very least. And we're going to get your thoughts right away. First segment was, the in-ring segment, Finn Balor relinquishing the Universal Championship with Stephanie McMahon and Mick Foley. And then all these guys come out, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, Sami Zayn, Enzo and Cass, Roman Reigns. They all show up. Mick Foley announces a series of matches to determine who will be the second Universal Champion next week. And then the first match was Seth Rollins against Sami Zayn. Unfortunately, I do not have a time of the fall, but Seth Rollins won the match with the pedigree. So, Michael Bullock, it's catch-up time, my friend. It's all yours.
All right. Yes. Hello, friends. Mike. This is the Phenom, Mike Bullock here. Yeah. As far as the segment, yeah. I mean, you have to feel bad for Finn Balor. I mean, the man just won the WWE Universal Championship, and then he gets injured, and now they're saying that it's a torn labrum, and he is going to be out for 6 months, and he has to relinquish the title, and you could basically hear the crowd. They were chanting, "You deserve it," and Finn Balor basically was saying, you know what, this champion represents a lifetime of sacrifice, and it represents, if you believe in yourself, you can achieve anything. And he achieved it last night, and he wants to thank WWE for the opportunity. And Also, he thanks Seth Rollins for giving him the match of his life, and then Foley takes the title and they gave him a hug, and then, well, let's just say it didn't last too long because Seth Rollins comes out with such a smirky smile and says, "You know what? Let's not win in the past. We now know who the true winner was, and it's me. I should be the true WWE Universal Champion." And then Sami Zayn comes out, and just before he could say anything, Chris Jericho comes out with a smug look on his face. And then out comes Kevin Owens. And then all of a sudden, Enzo and Big Cass come out, and then Roman Reigns comes out, and man, oh man, things get really crazy. And Mick Foley says, "You know what? We're gonna have a series of matches culminating next week in a fatal four-way match to determine the new WWE Universal Champion." So as far as the Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins match, I'm gonna say I'm gonna give it about I'm gonna give it 3 stars as my rating on the match. I mean, a nice match to start off the series of matches to determine who's going to be in the Fatal 4-Way next week. So, no surprise with Seth Rollins going over here. So, yeah, so there's really nothing more to say except next match, Florio.
And that next match, was the next match in the series of matches. It was Kevin Owens versus Adrian Neville. Kevin Owens won the match in 8 minutes and 30 seconds with a neckbreaker torture rack move. So, your thoughts on this match?
Again, I thought this was another really good match. I'm going to give it about 2.5 stars. A nice match for what it was and the amount of time we got. And well, Owens won thanks to a little distraction from Chris Jericho, and basically Kevin Owens got the win. So 2.5 stars. There's really nothing more to say. So what's up, Florio?
All right, now we're going to get into some irrelevant stuff, some cutaway stuff here, if you will. There was New Day cuts a promo, and then they were interrupted by Gallows and Anderson. It led to a match, Biggie Langston against Carl Anderson, which Biggie won. It was nothing to really speak of, so we're going to move on from that. And then there was another pointless and unnecessary segment with Titus O'Neil and Darren Young and Bob Backlund. We're not going to get into that. And then from there, the third match in the series of matches for the Universal Championship, it was U.S. Heavyweight Champion Rusev with Lana going up against Big Cass with Enzo. And Big Cass won the match via a countout in 7:40. So Big Cass is joining Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens for that Universal 4-Way next week. What do you think about that?
Man, that's a little surprise. That's surprising there. I mean, I thought Rusev was going to go over here, but yeah, Big Cass. I mean, he gets put in that fatal 4-Way for the WWE Universal Championship. So I'm going to give it about maybe 2 stars as my rating for the match. I thought the match was fine, but of course we had that count-out finish. So now Big Cass with the opportunity of a lifetime to become the WWE Universal Champion, and you know I got to do this, Florio, because Big Cass won.
Yes, he did.
Lana, Rusev, there's only one word to describe you, and we are gonna spell it out for you.
Hit it.
S-A-W-F-T. Oh,
what a rush.
when we do that.
Oh, what a rush.
Oh, man.
That was for you, Hawk, by the way, the late Hawk, Michael Hagstrand. So, yeah.
Definitely.
So yeah, Big Cass wins at 7:40. So, what was your rating for that, Bullock?
2 stars. I already said it.
All right, fair enough. And then we had the new women's champion Charlotte and Dana Brooke come out for a promo. They get interrupted by General Manager Mick Foley, who announces the newest signee of the Monday Night Raw Women's Division, and it's Bayley. Michael Bullock, your thoughts?
All I can say is it's about time. Great to see Bayley on the main roster now for good, and yeah, of course, basically it starts with Charlotte basically bragging, saying that oh, I did this all on my own. I'm the now 2-time women's champion, and Mick Foley comes out and says, you know what? When Sasha Banks comes back from injury, she will get her rematch. And then Charlotte's like, you know what? I hope she does come back, because when she does, I'm gonna break her back. And Charlotte's like, you know what? I deserve the night off after. And then Mick Foley's like, not so fast. And then basically he introduces the newest member of the Monday Night Raw Women's Division, and Bayley comes out, and the crowd goes nuts. And,
Oh, what a pop! What a
oh
pop!
my gosh, they really went nuts for her. And yes, Mick Foley actually got a hug from Bayley, and Charlotte. Let's just say Charlotte and Dana Brooke. Let's just say they weren't impressed, and basically, and Charlotte's like, you know what? There's a reason Bayley got left, and now Miss Left Behind wants to give out free hugs and upstage her. No way. And Bayley says, you know what? I respect you, Charlotte, and I would never in a million years try to upstage you, but I will challenge you someday for that women's championship. And Charlotte says, you know what? You need to get in line and earn an opportunity. You know, because I'm not even dressed to have a match.
But Dana was.
Therefore, Dana Brooke is going to be the one to face Bayley in her first match on Monday Night Raw.
And that is the next match, Michael Bullock. Bayley went up against Dana Brooke, and to no surprise, Bayley won the match with the Bayley to Belly in 4 minutes and 25 seconds. So your thoughts on that?
I'm going to give it about 1.25 to 1.5 stars. It's my rating on the match. I mean, a nice start for Bayley on the main roster, and now Dana Brooke knows why she is the former NXT Women's Champion, especially with her body of work. And I can tell you, someday Bayley's going to be next in line for that shot at the Women's Championship. Could it happen at Clash of Champions? We'll just have to. I'm going to say yes. So 1.25 to 1.5 stars is my rating. So let's move on, Florio.
Yeah, and you're not the only one who feels the same way. Derek Ferreira, who's just joining us, fresh off his night in Brooklyn again. What else is there to say? I mean, Derek did his prediction blog. You know how he likes to predict the cards for the event a month in advance, and that's what he had for his women's championship match. He had it as Charlotte against Bayley.
You can officially book it now.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. Don't worry, Derek. We'll get to you in a minute. I'm catching Bullock up before we get to you. And then we had Braun Strowman, a squash. Strowman squashed Johnny Knockout in 1 minute and 20 seconds. Obvious dud. So we're just gonna move on from that. And then we had the Dudley Boyz. The Dudley Boyz did their farewell segment. It was interrupted by the Shining Stars. The Dudleys go over on the Shining Stars, and then Gallows and Anderson come out, and then Gallows and Anderson take out the Dudleys. A magic killer on Bubba on the outside, and then a magic killer on Devon through a table. So no need to recap what they said, Bullock. I mean, they basically talked about their career and the TLC matches with Edge and Christian and the Hardys, and thanking the universe for all their love and support. You don't have to get into that. All I want is your thought on the segment alone. That's it.
Yeah, this was a real good segment, and yeah, it certainly was one one hell of a career, and all I can say is thank you to the Dudleys for giving us a lot of memories and moments that we will never forget. And Florio, for the last time, let's do this together. Oh, my brother! Oh, testify!
That was the segment of the night, no doubt about it.
Definitely.
All right, so you're caught up now, Bullock. So take a breather. I'm gonna bring Derek Ferreira in, the Hardcore Pipe Bomb, fresh off his third night at the Barclays. He was there for the Raw tonight. So Derek, your thoughts on basically what I mean? I know you probably don't want me to go run by run here, so just
I'll just
share your thoughts on this show tonight, including that massive IWC pop that Bayley got tonight, because you were there for it. I want to hear I want to get your thoughts on that.
All right. I'm just gonna make it quick. Most of the stuff that I'll talk about will be on my Wrestling Tape blog sometime later on in the week, Thursday or Friday most likely. But I'm gonna focus more on the segments tonight than the matches itself. So the Balor segment that really started the show out, and I heard about this today. I mean, I knew that WWE superstars were in New York. I just didn't want to stop by Good Morning America today and, see these guys because, I had to do that blog for the Clash of Champions. And by the way, for all the fans out there, I'll have the Backlash up sometime tomorrow morning. I'm due to be here around 11:30 tomorrow. Well, 11:30 in the morning, that is. So I'm hearing the rumors that he actually got hurt. I was like, this can't be good. It was a shoulder injury, and based on what I saw last night, and when that move was hit, you kind of felt for a moment that something was not right. You kind of felt like, did he just hurt his shoulder? And amazing that he popped the shoulder back in and then fought throughout that match. And to hear about the torn labrum and being out for 6 months, I actually received word about this about 7:30 tonight that he was going to be out for 6 months, and it was revealed by Bleacher Report on their team stream. And I told some people in the crowd tonight that he's out. He's going to be out for 6 months, and people were just like, they were pissed about it because, this guy was just the champion, and now that he has to relinquish that title, it really shakes up the WWE. I kind of feel like this weekend was a very big news bit week with all the suspensions that happened in the WWE, with the big story that happened last night between Lesnar and Jericho getting into that fight, and now this injury, and then of course there was that rumor that Randy Orton got suspended for 60 days, which, that really became false. Some people on social media, what I noticed is they like to put in old news stories from a couple of years ago, and it's kind of like clickbait. I know sometimes, and I do this with my blog, I do this with Sports Blog, and I just put it on a lot of the group pages, and it's not clickbait. It's basically to get people to read what I have to say, my opinions. I've had some WWE executives try to bash me about it, but, it's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. So seeing Balor having to relinquish that title, I mean, the crowd, when his theme music came out, they popped him big. And once they heard he had to relinquish it, and this was like the beginning of the show, people were just like, like I said, they were pissed. And once all the players came out, Rollins, he had a decent pop. Sami Zayn, of course, had a huge pop. They were doing the ole, ole, ole. Jericho got booed. Kevin Owens, huge pop. Enzo and Cass. Now, for a moment, I thought, wait a minute, don't tell me Enzo Amore is going to be in this match. And then when Roman Reigns came out, of course, the Boo Birds came out, and I mean, the segment itself, I mean, it worked well enough, but you know, they had to put in this. I kind of wish that they were gonna do like a tournament format. I'm surprised that they just did these matches, and all right, the winner of these matches are gonna be in, you know, a Fatal 4-Way match next week on Monday Night Raw. And this is what tells you about panic within, you know, the creative. If they knew about this injury hours in advance, I don't know when they knew about this injury. I don't know if it was around mid to late afternoon, probably 6 o'clock at best. You got a 2-hour show to write. You got a show you have to write that's going to be aired within the next 2 hours. It's not, you know, it's just simple. Try to figure out what they did. I kind of felt tonight's Monday Night Raw was more of a rushed, panic, creative. What happened with this Balor thing? They simply rushed this show tonight in terms of storyline. So, I mean, I understand it, why they did it. To me, it was flawed. So, you know, that's what happened with that. And then the matches, I'll do quick. Rollins defeating Sami Zayn. That was a 4-star fight. You had Kevin Owens against Neville, with Kevin Owens winning that match. 3 stars. The New Day segment, I'll talk about that. They got popped big time. And, you know, for a tag team that's held this championship for 365 days. You know, they're talking about their title run. You know, of course, you know, they're like, we like to thank you guys for making us what we are today. Of course, when this stable did stop, nobody liked this stable. They all thought this stable was going to bomb. And what happened? They just basically, you know, fell in love. I mean, the IWC loved this tag team, and of course, you know, they got interrupted by, you know, the club, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. You know, they're lobbying for a rematch. And it really set it up the match. And this is what happens when you have a 3-hour Monday Night Raw. They could have did this. They could have done this as a backstage segment, but they did this so it could be, you know, part of the show. And like I said last night, this storyline I do not like. I kind of feel like the stock for both of these teams are going low, and it's been less enjoyable throughout, you know, this feud. And then, you know, Big E defeating Carl Anderson, 1.5 stars. Then you had the Big Cass defeating Rusev. I thought that was 2 stars. Of course, you know, Big Cass and Enzo got a huge pop. Now, let me talk about this Bayley, the Charlotte segment over here. Because, you know, they were singing the Bayley song, you know, the one that I like to do. And, you know, they knew this IWC crowd, and I'll say it like this was a better crowd than what you saw tonight, than what you saw at SummerSlam. Way better. I mean, we should have gotten this last night. But, you know, that's the weird thing about WWE. WWE always wants to book these shows weird. And once Mick Foley arrived, all right, when, you know, Charlotte was doing her shtick, I was like, you know what? Nobody cares. You know, just get out of the ring. We know we want somebody out there that's going to enjoy us. We want another woman. We know who we want in that ring. And then when you heard Mick Foley's theme song, you're like, okay, this is going to get interesting. I had this gut feeling that they were going to swerve us and it was going to be Nia Jax. And that would have pissed off a lot of people in New York tonight. And when he said the hottest free agent of the new era, everybody was just like, oh boy, it's Bayley, and that pop was huge. I mean, it was kind of like, the Dudleys when they made their debuts when they returned to last year. It was like that same pop for Bayley, and I'll get more into what she can do on the main roster, but definitely this was kind of the right time to debut her. I mean, the Barclays, we know what she did last year in that match against Sasha Banks, and I believe she stole Mick Foley's cheap pop, and to me this was kind of like, I would have to say this was my second best segment of the night, because Charlotte, she just came off way better, and it was kind of something that I saw with Charlotte, because she was more natural, she was confident in her promo talk. We all wanted Bayley. We got Bayley. This was the best way to make her debut. It's a big deal. The match that she had with Dana was 2 stars. And then Braun Strowman defeating Johnny Knockout. Well, Johnny got his ass knocked out in Brooklyn, 1 minute and 21 seconds, and the Dudley Boyz. It was like, this was a segment of the night, because this was kind of like the great place. And the thing about the Dudleys is they just recently signed a year deal with the WWE. So you kind of thought maybe this is kind of a way that's going to end the Dudleys. Maybe they're just going to be like road agents, or go down to NXT and develop, the tag team division over there, and try to bring in the tag team of the future. And we've got some great tag teams up in there. TM61, Authors of Pain. I could go on and on and on about that division. So, and they spoke from the heart, because they knew the fans loved them, the fans hated them, and at the end of the day, they were respected. And there was some ECW chants coming in, and this is a team that I started watching in 1997, and they were kicking ass and taking names in ECW. They took out teams like the Eliminators, the late great John Cronus, who has some great ties to New England, especially the Boston area. The Gangsters, New Jack and Mustafa. What they did to Tommy Dreamer's wife with that 3D. Splitting up those tag teams. That's what I liked about the Dudley Boyz. And then when they mentioned Edge and Christian, when they mentioned the Hardys especially, crowd just absolutely went nuts. It kind of felt like the Hardys, they want the Hardys back in the WWE. And quite rightfully so, especially with what we're seeing with what Matt Hardy's doing with the broken Matt Hardy character. And I've seen some stuff on Facebook. I've seen stuff on Reddit. I actually enjoyed this character. This is probably the best work that Matt Hardy's ever done as a professional wrestler, and I really mean that. So it's like they want the Hardys back in the WWE. So WWE, anything bad happens with TNA, sign this tag team. Please do so. And then once the Shining Stars came out, we went from the chairs to the boos, and then we went back to the chairs because they wanted the tables. They wanted to see the Dudleys put the Shining Stars through a table. And then all of a sudden, the club comes out, Doc and Carl Anderson. That kind of killed the crowd in the Barclays tonight. I mean, that segment, well, I'll say it like this. It was a great segment. You kind of knew that the Dudleys were going to break up. The last couple of weeks, they've been teasing that. And then, they announced them as, saying they're leaving the WWE. So I really think what could happen here is that the Dudleys, if this goes into Clash of Champions, and I said in my blog that I have the club going up against the New Day for those tag team titles, I think you could see a pre-show fight with the Shining Stars against the Dudleys, and then you could see the Dudleys break up from there. And there's a lot of talk that, Bubba Ray wants to bring in some sort of a Bully Ray character to WWE. I would actually like to see it because, the Bully Ray character in TNA was awesome. Even when he came back as a babyface and then weeks later he was the head honcho of Aces and Eights. I like to see that happen. But the way they can also do it as well is a TLC match at Clash of Champions with New Day, the Club, the Shining Stars, and the Dudleys. And then the main event, Roman Reigns winning. It kind of felt... It was actually like a 3-star fight, but Roman Reigns got booed. Got booed like crazy. And that's what's going to happen with him. I mean, the IWC, as long as he's in the WWE, he's not going to be respected by the IWC because nobody cares about him. But now I kind of feel like with Balor being out, he's really the only hope to be the main event guy. He makes sense. He has to be the babyface. And until Balor comes back, he's a top babyface, and you have to like it or not. That's the reality of what we are in the WWE. I know the internet wants to take things over, and trust me, social media has made things weird. It kind of feels like, and I always say this, whether it's wrestling or other topics in pop culture, social media has made things worse. Sites like Facebook, sites like Twitter, Reddit, I kind of feel like they're putting a gun into the WWE and saying, we want this, we want that. You can't have it. You really can't. And that's what's going to happen. So, I know that we're going to overall thoughts. I'll just do that quick because I got to head out, finish some things off because I'm out of here in the morning. I can say this was a 7 out of 10 show. The crowd, if you put in the crowd factor, this was an 8 out of 10. If I was watching this at home, this was a 6 out of 10 for me because this was all about WWE tonight being in panic mode. And when you have one of your top stars injured, and you find out hours before that show, let's say for sake of conversation, you find out 3 hours before you go on the air, you have to try to rush and figure all of this out. What are we going to do tonight? You got the Fatal 4-Way match next week. And next week you're going to get a new Universal Champion, and you're going to really move on from that. Oh, yeah, there was the Darren Young and, the Titus Young and Darren Young segment. Nobody really cared about that segment at all. That's why I kind of skipped through that. But that was also part of the second hour, and that second hour was, oh my goodness, it was just rough. And I think that's what really hurt the show. I mean, the crowd was trying to get into it. But, to me, it was a good show. Now WWE Creative, what they have to do at best within this next 7 days is to try to figure out what are we going to do here. Who are we going to put the Universal Champion on? Are we going to put it on Rollins? That's a possibility. They have to put it on Seth Rollins. Are they going to put it on Roman Reigns? It's also a possibility as well. I mean, any one of those 4 guys, I'll say it, Cass and Kevin Owens, they're not going to be Universal Champion. No, I don't see it happening. I think it's really going to be between Rollins and Reigns. I'm locked and loaded on that. So we'll see what happens next Monday night. And they have to deliver a big show next week, too, because next week you have, well, in 2 weeks, college football. They have a Monday game. And then in 3 weeks, you got the season premiere Monday Night Football. So they're going to lose a lot of viewers within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And, that could hurt, the product as a whole. They know fall is like, yeah, Monday Night Football is going to kick our ass. And quite rightfully so. So they really have to start developing great storylines to really get wrestling fans interested in it. Then you got Black Monday coming up next month. Big shows returning. Shows like Gotham comes back. I mean, The Voice comes back. Dancing with the Stars. So they're in a lot of trouble in the fall. So, and this is why I really don't watch WWE, in the fall live, because I'm really more focused on Monday Night Football. So that's my rating. So I know you guys were going into that. So whoever wants to take it, take it.
Well, actually, we were yet to review the main event, but we're on our way there anyway, Derek. So you're absolutely right on that. So yeah, it's the main event. Thanks, Derek, as always. Great stuff as always. Now we're into the main event. Now we got Roman. It was the final match of the Universal Championship Series. It was Roman Reigns going up against Chris Jericho. Winner of the match in an even 15 minutes, Roman Reigns with the spear. Michael Bullock, I'm going to start it off with you. Your thoughts on Roman Reigns and Chris Jericho in this main event?
What did you say the time of the fall was?
An even 15 minutes.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna give this match about 3.5 to maybe close to 3 3/4 of a star. And yeah, this was a great main event here. Of course, Roman Reigns. Of course, no surprise. Of course, being booed by the crowd. And yeah, I mean, this, like I said, this was a great match. And basically, of course, Reigns looks like he's on his way for the win, and then Kevin Owens comes out and basically distracts Roman Reigns. Then Jericho with a roll up and doesn't get the 3 count, and then it's the Superman punch, and Roman Reigns then basically he goes here. Jericho with the walls of Jericho in the center of the ring, but and of course as Roman Reigns crawls to the ropes, he was able to break the hold, but Kevin Owens then basically with a super kick and then a code breaker, Reigns kicks out, and then of course Reigns with shoves Jericho into the ropes when Kevin Owens is on the apron. A Superman punch to Kevin Owens. Reigns hits the spear, gets the win. So there you go. You have your 4 men in the Fatal 4-Way next week for the WWE Universal Championship. Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Big Cass, and Roman Reigns. So really looking forward to seeing how that all goes down next week. So 3.5 to 3 3/4 of a star. So with that being said, Dee Woodson, I give it to you.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I pretty much agree with the rating, 3.5 stars or so. Not much more to say about it. I think y'all pretty much covered it. The main event, so I'll toss it over to Fletch if he wants to take it.
Well, actually, it goes to me, D.D. Woodson. nonetheless, I agree. To me, I'm gonna be real honest. By a smidge, I gotta say this was my fight of the night. I'm gonna give it between 3 3/4 to 4 stars. I mean, this was a very good main event. I mean, Fletch and I, we actually called it at because Fletch came in very late and he hit me up and we actually did a very small raw chat, with the Dudley Boyz segment and then this. The closing minutes of the match were really fun. I don't think the outcome was ever truly in doubt, but they did a nice job of delaying the inevitable and keeping it interesting. So that's really all there is to say on that. So yeah, a very good match and 3 3/4, 4 stars. This to me was my fight of the night by a smidge. It's really between this and the Rollins and Zayn match because those were far and away the two best fights of the night on this show here tonight. And like Bullock said, we got our 4 men now for the Universal Championship. We'll get more into that in just a little bit when we do our overall review. So 3 3/4 to 4 stars. Fight of the night by a smidge. So Michael Fletcher, you were there with me. We saw this main event. We had a lot of fun with it, and Roman went over. No big surprise. So your thoughts on this very good main event?
Yeah, no, it was a very good main event. Solid fight, no doubt about it. I definitely agree with the three to you said about 3.5 stars is the rating. I can't argue with that. I actually will agree with you with that. Like you said, it was a solid main event. I wish the fight could have been a little better, just a smidgen better, but I think that's kind of more of an apples to oranges type of a situation. But like I said, at the end of the night, the right person won, the more deserving person won. So yeah, nothing more to say. I'm down with it. Like you said, this was a good event. Even though, like I said, I only caught the last half hour, but the last half hour was actually really good. So nothing more to say. Let's just get into the overall review. So and that'll be Didi and Bullock and you, Florio, because for me, incomplete.
All right, and incomplete for Michael Fletcher. Fair enough. Didi Whitton, we're going to start it off with you with your overall thoughts on this very newsworthy night after SummerSlam edition of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, for the most part, I thought it was a really good Raw. I'd probably give it about 7 stars. It was definitely you could tell it was definitely a throw together show that they were scrambling to try to come up with something since Balor had to step down. But all in all, I mean most of the matches were very solid. None of them, except for a couple, were letdowns. They were all real good. But we definitely tackled some segments and got some good lead-ins to fill in the blanks from the pay-per-view, of what's going to happen now with the Universal title and what's going to happen now with the women's title and so on and so forth. There's a lot of possibilities we could see coming up for the next pay-per-view, but from what I'm seeing, if Raw continues with the show we had tonight, just that caliber, maybe we'll have a better lead up to the Raw pay-per-view than what we had for this one. So I'm going to toss it back to you, and I'm going to say goodnight. So see you all tomorrow night.
All right, good night, Didi, and we'll see you tomorrow night for our next all new installment of the Cerebral Smack Talk with Michael Fletcher. So looking forward to that. Yeah, for the most part, I do agree with Didi's rating, but I'm going to give it between 7.5 to 8 out of 10 tonight. 3-hour marathon. I know some people will say it was a 3-hour marathon, but it had some great moments. I mean, it was great to see Bayley debut. Whatever the Dudleys are doing got over with the crowd, and the Jericho and Owens pairing continues to be fun. I'm not. I can't say I'm overly excited to see another four-way match, to determine the new and second Universal Champion next week. But WWE is in a very tough spot with Finn Balor's injury and a title belt design that no one likes. In fact, I wonder if part of the reason they booked the match for next week is because the Houston fans may not get as caught up in hating the belt as the Brooklyn fans did last night. Of course, giving Reigns the win outside of Brooklyn is also a possible explanation. So, but yeah, it's between 7.5 to 8 out of 10. That was just the Cliff Notes version. Fight of the night by a smidge, I'd have to say, was Reigns and Jericho. Second best fight, Rollins and Zayn. The other matches, some of the other matches were pretty good. You had a solid match with Rusev and Big Cass, and then the third, and rounding out my top three for fights of the night. Third best fight of the night, definitely Kevin Owens and Adrian Neville. Sleeper fight of the night would have to be Rusev and Big Cass, and then you had a solid but short women's match with Bayley and Dana Brooke, and then you had those in-ring segments. The Balor segment was fine. The Charlotte segment where Bayley debuted, that was really good. And then, of course, that segment with the Dudleys, that was the segment of the night. No question about it. Another so-so match with Big E and Anderson. So, but yeah. But like I said, the crowd, the Bayley debut, a lot of that newsworthy stuff. And some of these matches were pretty damn good. So 7.5, I think, probably would be the best rating. I thought it was a slightly better show than SummerSlam was, believe it or not. But mainly because of that crowd, because a lot of the times during SummerSlam, that crowd was dead. But this crowd tonight was very vocal, especially when Bayley came out. I mean, that was the pop of the night right there. No question about that. And next week on Monday Night Raw, 2 matches announced. We're going to see match 2 of the Best of 7 series between Sheamus and Cesaro. And then, of course, the big one, the 4-way match for the Universal Championship. Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Big Cass, Roman Reigns. Winner to become only the second Universal Champion. My money's on either Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns. I don't think it's going to be Owens or Big Cass. I mean, it would be a nice surprise if it was one of them. But it's very likely going to be either Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns. And I think it could lead to another Rollins and Reigns feud down the road, and I think it's going to be Rollins and Reigns for that belt at the Clash of the Champions. But we'll have to wait and see how they decide to go about it. So 7.5, maybe 8 out of 10. I think that's the best I can give this show tonight. Newsworthy show to say the very least. Michael Fletcher said it was an incomplete on his end since he didn't see the whole show except for the final moments. So Michael Bullock, I'm going to bring you in. Your overall thoughts on this newsworthy night after SummerSlam edition of Monday Night Raw tonight?
I'm going to give it 7 to 7.5 out of 10. Yeah, this was, like you said, this was a newsworthy edition of Monday Night Raw. Of course, the fight of the night being Roman Reigns and Chris Jericho. Yeah, a good match with Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins. I mean, a surprising outcome with Big Cass beating Rusev and getting into that fatal 4-way. He had a good opening segment with, of course, Finn Balor relinquishing the title. You also had Bayley, of course, making her debut. So, yeah, there's really nothing more to say. So 7 to 7.5 out of 10. So that being said, Flora, let's just put a bow on this edition of Ridiculously Raw.
Well, before we do that, of course, we have my Tony's take. Don't forget.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and next up, and of course, we're going to start it off first with my thoughts on last week's installment of the WWE Cruiserweight Classic as they continue the second round of the Classic, and coming off that unbelievable show the week before, and of course, you know what we do in the Tony's Take. I review the Cruiserweight Classic, and I also review Impact Wrestling, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. So, okay. Week 6 here of the Cruiserweight Classic, and 3 matches on the card, and we're going to start it off with our first match. It was Akira Tozawa going up against Jack Gallagher. Winner of the match via pinfall in 11 minutes and 40 seconds, Akira Tozawa. He advances to the next round, and I like both of these guys. Normally, I'd have a favorite, but I'd be pleased with either man moving on. Really nice back and forth stuff to begin, and let me see, what else do I have? A really good and fun match, only suffering a bit at the end as the legwork ended up not really mattering as Tozawa just hit his moves without any real difficulty. I would have loved to have seen an alternate finisher used there to really sell the work of the knee, but I really enjoyed the match, and it felt different from everything else presented so far. I'm hoping that both of these guys do get signed in the main roster at some point, maybe part of that cruiserweight division that's going to debut on September 19th on Monday Night Raw, by the way. So my rating for the match, 3 3/4 stars. Very good match. And it's a rarity here because I have co-fights of the night, and this was one of those co-fights of the night right here because it was really hard to put one over the other. Second match was Noam Dar going up against Ho Ho Lun. Winner of the match in 7 minutes and 5 seconds via pinfall, Noam Dar. Noam Dar moves on. And let me see here. By default, worst fight of the night. It was an overall average and unspectacular match. Not bad, but it didn't have a great flow and stayed in second gear and never really threatened to kick it up a notch. I have heard great things about Dar, but have yet to be impressed. So my rating for this fight, 2 stars. Main event of the evening, it was the Brian Kendrick going up against Tony Nese. Winner of the match via submission in 13 minutes and 42 seconds. The Brian Kendrick continues on in the Cruiserweight Classic. And let me see where my notes on this. The Brian Kendrick, once again, able to survive using his bag of tricks and outlasting the younger competitor. They are telling a great story with Kendrick, and he is more than holding his own, and is really surprising me with his performances. Nese looked great here, even though he lost. So that's all there is to say on that. This is my other fight of the night here. I'm giving it 3 3/4 stars as well, teetering on 4. I can honestly make an argument that this was the fight of the night by a smidge over the other fight, but that's all I can say about it. And then next week, the second round continues, and I believe we wrap up the second round next week. We got Rich Swann going up against Lince Dorado, Zack Sabre Jr. going up against Drew Gulak, and T.J. Perkins will be going up against Johnny Gargano. So 3 phenomenal matches there. My overall thoughts on this show, 7.5 out of 10 is the rating here. Another good episode of the series with the opener and main event being very good matches, worked in completely different styles. They are well worth your time. The WWE Cruiserweight Classic continues to be a fun experiment as well as a very easy and fun hour of television each and every week. So those are my thoughts on the Cruiserweight Classic. Now we move on to Impact Wrestling, which was taped, of course, at the Impact Zone in Orlando, Florida. We had an in-ring segment to start it off. Cowboy James Storm coming out and expressing his frustrations over coming up just short in that match against Bobby Lashley the week before. He called out referee Brian Hebner and basically got berated him and said, "You screwed up, man. I should have been the champion because, I had Lashley pinned. I had him beat, but you were sending Jeremy Borash out of the ring." Jeremy Borash, the ring announcer, by the way. And he wanted a rematch with Bobby Lashley. Enter new TNA president, Billy Corgan, as you all know, formerly of the Smashing Pumpkins, the lead singer of that phenomenal band. He came out and, he basically tried to talk some sense into James Storm, and Storm talked about AJ Styles and Bobby Roode leaving the company, but he stayed because of the fans and some other folks there. And Storm goes on a rampage. He actually takes out the security guard with a beer bottle, and then Billy Corgan says, "Hey, come back." And he says, "You know what? Take this back to Nashville. You're suspended indefinitely." So Billy Corgan basically suspends James Storm indefinitely. I think that was a write-off angle because, as we all know, James Storm is on his way out of TNA. But to me, this was the segment of the night. I mean, I really enjoyed this segment a lot. To some, it was a strange segment, to say the least, but James Storm is beloved enough that the fans just ate up everything he is into. Corgan is strange in another way, a not-so-great way, but he seems like he's trying to play pro wrestler, but doesn't have the practice put in. But I did like what he did there. He should tone down the hand motions and strange noises. As for Storm, he was great as usual, and his greatness from a character perspective really carried him in this segment. I'm just not sure about the motive because he did come off as petty and complaining about the opening 10 seconds of his match with Lashley. So that's all there is to say on that. First First match of the night, Eddie Edwards going up against Moose. Of course, Moose was accompanied by Mike Bennett. Moose won the match in 6 minutes and 9 seconds with the Sky High. Productive match from several fronts. Moose doesn't gain much from an in-ring perspective, since that was mostly Eddie Edwards doing a lot of the work. Without Davey Richards around, Eddie Edwards is really starting to put together a string of good matches and build credibility. I mean, for starters, TNA pulled him out of X Division hell. They also gave Edwards the visual pinfall over Moose, this time with Moose only winning because of Bennett. It looks like they are also building to an eventual breakup between Moose and Bennett because Bennett's ego has now caused him to cover up Moose's theme with his own. So, 2.25 to 2.5 stars. Solid match, like I said. So, moving on, we had Gail Kim against Jade. Gail Kim. Now this is very confusing here. Gail Kim wins the match via disqualification in 5 minutes and 22 seconds because Sienna attacked Gail, and we got used to this last year when Josh Matthews and Taz had to cover up storyline holes, and I think we have a storyline hole here. Gail Kim won the match, and it looked like they were trying to do the same story that they did with EC3 and Mike Bennett. But Gail Kim didn't have the condition that all her wins had to be via pinfall or submission. Well, Gail Kim shouldn't care since she already said that she would rather face Maria than get the title before the match. Because Maria would come out and say, no more, I mean, your quest for the title is over. So we're going to have to look really deep into that. As far as the match is concerned, I'm giving it about 1.5 to 2 stars. And then, all right, let's see. Then there was a backstage segment. We're not going to get into that. We had a four-way match: Rockstar Spud, DJ Z, Braxton Sutter, Mandrews. DJ Z won the match in 4 minutes and 32 seconds. Yeah, this was not good. I believe that match did more continual damage to the X Division by just existing. In fact, the X Division would be better off if this was relegated to being an explosion match, to be honest. They just don't get it. And Josh Matthews on commentary even took a while to figure out which one of the roulette of multi-man matches this was. 1.25, 1.5 stars. To me, this was the worst fight of the night. So, and then Ethan Carter III came out, and then Drew Galloway, and then that's when Aaron Rex came out, and basically it was EC3 answering Drew Galloway's challenge for that return match, for that one-on-one match where the winner gets the Bound for Glory main event title shot. Aaron Rex, alias Damian Sandow. And he says that I'm going to be the guest referee. So I probably would say this was the second best segment of the night. The EC3 and Drew part was fine and better than most of their meandering feud. Aaron Rex, he is getting a bit of confusing and falling into the same pitfalls that Drew did early in his TNA run. He's getting a bit too meta with talking about the type of creative that he likes to watch. I wonder if this would work somewhere outside of the Impact Zone. So, but it was fine for what it was. And then Eli Drake went up against Mahabali Shera. Eli Drake won the match in 2.5 minutes. I got to correct myself. This was the worst fight of the night. 1 star for the effort. At least Shera doesn't injure people, but he's still very green. He's been green for years and is in dire need of a developmental system. Rob Terry got decent at one point due to having teachers. Drake might finally be turning a corner because the crowd was really into him tonight, as am I. I really love that dummy yass stuff that he does. That might also be because we have a good Impact Zone crowd, and they got into it a lot. So that's all I can say about that. So yeah, that was the worst fight of the night for me. 1 star. Bobby Lashley then was in the ring for a segment, and we called out Billy Corgan and Dixie Carter, and he basically relinquished the King of the Mountain and X Division championships, and that he was the undisputed champion of professional wrestling. Another slight correction. I mean, as much as I love that opening segment with Billy Corgan and James Storm, I thought actually this was the segment of the night. I mean, did TNA just abort the Lashley Triple Crown storyline? A lot of the things Lashley said made a lot of sense, and I hope this is the true end of the Booker T Red Toy belt, that being the King of the Mountain belt. I also hope that the newly painted X title is gone too and the division gets rebooted. But that multi-man pointless match earlier did not give me hope. The only thing good about that segment was Lashley's confidence on the mic. Corgan and Carter continue to be awkward. I hope they aren't trying to mimic the Commissioner GM dynamic on Raw and SmackDown. And then we had a number one, and then we had the main event, the ladder match. the Ascension to Hell, as they called it. Bromance, Robbie E. and Jesse Goddard, the Tribunal, Baron Dax, and my favorite name, Basile Baraka, along with the Helms Dynasty, Andrew Everett and Trevor Lee, and then, of course, the Hardys, Broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero. Winners of the match in about 13 minutes, and number one contenders for the tag team titles, it was the Hardys. Fight of the night. That's all I can say about it. This was far and away the fight of the night. 3.5 stars. First of all, I'm happy for the Helms Dynasty guys because they were out of X Division hell for at least 1 week. Also, when you add 4 guys from North Carolina in the tag division, suddenly you have a decent division, and it was a good showcase here. Dax and Baraka still need some work, but hopefully they find something other than being French. The Hardys are the television draws to Impact, and they drew attention and importance to the tag division. That's good usage of all of the equity built in the Long Matt and Jeff feud, and it takes them off of the island they were fighting on. Overall, there were a few flaws here and there, but this episode of Impact Wrestling did a good job of progressing storylines and things. Most of the bad stuff involved Dixie Carter and Billy Corgan. The tag team division got a boost. The Knockouts got some progression. Mike Bennett and Moose got some development as well. It wasn't a must-see Impact by any means, but a good one nonetheless. That ladder match was far and away the fight of the night. I'm going to give this between 6 and 6.5 out of 10. That's the best I can give it. The in-ring segments were fine too, but the Ascension to Hell, though, you got to go out of your way to see that ladder match. That was a fun match, to say the very least. And now the Hardys will face the Decay for the World Tag Team Championship at Bound for Glory on October 2 at the Impact Zone in Orlando. What's coming up on the next edition of Impact Wrestling? Well, let me tell you. We have an open invitational battle royal for a World Heavyweight Championship match. Bobby Lashley was on commentary, and I'm not going to tell you who won that. Just there was an open battle royal, and then there was a five knockout, no disqualification match for the TNA Knockouts Championship. We had Sienna defending against Madison Rayne, Jade, Marty Bell, and Allie. You're not going to believe what happens in that one. That's all I'm going to say. An in-ring segment with the Hardys. It'll be interrupted by Decay, and it'll lead into a match between Abyss and Jeff Hardy. A Fact of Life segment with Eli Drake, with the X Division guys, DJ Z, Mandrews, Rockstar Spud, Trevor Lee, Andrew Everett, and Braxton Sutter, which is going to set up an X Division championship match. They're going to set up a match next week, the following week, to determine the new X Division champion. And then in the main event, Ethan Carter III, Drew Galloway, Bound for Glory title shot, Aaron Rex, the referee. So that all goes down Thursday night, 8 p.m., Pop TV. Check it out. So that's it. That's going to put the bow on this edition of Ridiculously. Now it puts the bow on this edition of Ridiculously Raw. Thank you all so very much for tuning in, as always. Of course, before we go, we're going to do our shout-outs real quick. We're going to open forum this, so whoever wants it first, it's yours. Save me for last.
Yeah, I'll start it.
All right.
I'll start off, of course. Shout-outs to all of our tremendous fans and viewers out there who continue to support our shows, whether it's Ridiculously Raw, the Cerebral Smack Talk, and of course Strictly Sports. Doesn't matter. We really appreciate it, and we thank you very much for tuning in. Of course, shout-outs to our super fans, of course, Dee Dee Woodson for joining us, and of course to Kevin Woodson and the rest of the Woodson family. Of course, to our other super fans, Matt Ward and Jason Hexenbaugh, and of course, shout-outs to all of our friends from our high school days: Al Bretterson, Jimmy Alden, Rob Parsons, Eric Carrier, Tom Souza, the First Lady of the Wrestling Forum, Megan Silva, the First Lady of Strictly Sports, Kaisa Butler. So I'll save the rest of my shout-outs for our big season finale of Strictly Sports. So until Friday night for our season finale of Strictly Sports, this is the Phenom Mike Bullock saying thank you all so very much for tuning in.
You mean tomorrow night?
You know the routine.
You mean tomorrow night?
Huh? So I'm sorry. Yeah. Long night. So until tomorrow night.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yes, and one more thing before I sign off. Another big shout out, of course, to my mom. Of course, she went through her second surgery on her blocked subclavian artery. It didn't go so well, so now she's going to have to go through a third surgery where they basically are going to have to take the vein out of her leg to basically fix everything up. So I can tell you my mom's a strong woman. I love her so much, and I really hope she can get through this this part of the surgery whenever she gets it. So I love you, Mom, and stay strong. So yeah, so now until later tonight for an all-new edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk. This is the Phenom Mike Bullock saying thank you all so very much for tuning in. And of course, you know the routine. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up, Fortune 4 style. Bye for now. And of course, I'll see you guys later tonight. So whoever wants it next, it's yours.
Fletch, it's yours. I'm gonna wrap it up.
All right. Wow. First off, my thoughts and prayers to your mom, Mike Bullock. Wow. How do I follow that? how can I? That's wow. But I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna try to do it Cerebral Viper style. But first off, thank you to the great fans out there. You guys are the best fans in the world. You guys already know that. Shout out to my friends in the junior high and high school days. Love you guys as always. 2184 crew, as always. Amazing feedback, interesting feedback from last night's Sunday night SummerSlam. Not really a big hit, but it is what it is. But I will say this. I think after tonight, we definitely are back on the WWE train. WWE, you definitely won us over tonight. So good job, guys, as always. And no, that's it. So for tomorrow night for later tonight on the Cerebral Smack Talk, it is SmackDown Live, the fallout from SummerSlam. Who's the new WWE World Champion? Well, we'll see about that. And then it's all roads to No Mercy, the first secular, basically WWE SmackDown only event, which I'm very excited for. And then on top of that, I got some Ring of Honor news. Basically, there was a pay-per-view during SummerSlam weekend. We're going to cover that. And of course, I also have my RWA commemorization recap show. I'm telling you guys, you don't want to miss that. I got a fight of the year candidate for you guys. What's that fight? Who are the participants? You're just going to have to follow later on, 10:30 Eastern, BraveFan95 on YouTube.com. Until then, it's Mike Fletcher. You know the routine. Ham House. I'm out. So long. Floyo, take it home.
All right, we'll do Michael Fletcher. And I hate to correct you again, but I have to. Backlash.
Oh, it's Backlash.
Yeah, September 11th. No Mercy is the one after when it comes to SmackDown.
All right.
So we'll get more into that behind the scenes. But nonetheless, special shout out to all of our tremendous fans and viewers out there who continue to make Ridiculously Raw, the Cerebral Smack Talk, and Strictly Sports as over as they are. I want to give you guys a very special shout out because last week's Ridiculously Raw, we've only been doing this show for a few weeks now, for a little over a month now. Last week's Ridiculously Raw was our highest rated Ridiculously Raw since we started this. 272 views, gentlemen. 272 views for last week's Ridiculously Raw. So you truly are the best fans in the world, and we honestly thank you all so much from the bottom of our hearts. We really do appreciate all of the love. And 57 views for our recap show last night with Michael Fletcher. So decent view count for you, Fletch, when it comes to the recap of SummerSlam in Brooklyn. So, yeah, best fans in the world, you already know that, like Fletch said. We do this because we love it. That's all there is to it. So and we're going to keep doing it. And, of course, this is busy time for us now. We're approaching busy time within the next couple of weeks. And, we're going to be on damn near almost every night of the week. So get used to us because, like it or not, you're going to be seeing us almost every night starting in a few weeks. I'll get more on that in a minute. Of course, our super fans and friends and insiders, Dee Dee Woodson, our Twisted Angel, did a great job tonight. The official First Lady of the Wrestling Forum. She did a great job tonight as always. Of course, shout out to her, Kevin, and the family. I know they had an ordeal recently, but hopefully all is well with that. Matt Ward with his Realm Report Blogspot site. Continue to check that out. That's a great read. Jason Hicksonbaugh, Dana Luttrell from the UK, our other First Ladies, Kaiser Butler, Megan Silva, and Lexi Calloway. Of course, the rest of our crew, Tommy Souza, Eric Carrier, Jimmy Alden, Al Bradison, and Rob Parsons, and of course, our Imperial Grand Poobah, the Hardcore Pipe Bomb, Derek Ferreira. Great stuff from him as usual. So, so that's going to put the bow on this edition of Ridiculously Raw. As I'll save the rest of my shout-outs for our big season finale of Strictly Sports. We'll get into that in just a moment. Like Fletch said, next time we're with you tomorrow night, 10:30, on his channel, BraceFan95, as we will have another all-new edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk, where we will review, we'll sort out all the fallout from the SmackDown side of things coming out of SummerSlam. They actually announced two things for the show tomorrow night. AJ Styles, the phenomenal one, he's going to address the WWE Universe. And we'll also have the SmackDown live in-ring debut of their newest women's division signee, the returning Nikki Bella. Nikki Bella will make her in-ring debut tomorrow night on SmackDown, so it should be a lot of fun on that. And, of course, like I said, we'll sort out their side of their fallout from SummerSlam. Of course, that unforgettable 5-star classic with Styles and Cena, the fight which stole the show at SummerSlam. Let's not kid ourselves. We'll get into that. We'll review SmackDown Live. And then Fletch will have his Mikey's Mindset with all he just covered. He has some ROH stuff, some RWA stuff, and he'll recap the RWA commemorization. Cannot wait to hear about that. And not sure if we're going to have another Derek segment, but we'll see. Friday night, gentlemen. Are you ready, guys? The season finale of Strictly Sports. Here it comes. It's a big show. We're going to preview. We're going to have our college football preview. Yes. What that means is we're only going to talk about the Power 5 conferences as well as Notre Dame. So we're going to talk about that on Friday night, the college football preview. And then from there, we're also going to have our NFL preview, our 2016 NFL preview, our division by division, and whatnot. And then from there, our final Major League Baseball power rankings. Because after next week, they go away until next season. So 10:30 Friday night, right back here on the Tone 25, season finale of Strictly Sports, because the following week, it's go time, boys. College football and our NFL shows, they start up, and quite frankly, we cannot wait. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of busyness. It's going to be a busy season for all of us, but damn it to hell, we don't care. We are so delighted, and we couldn't be any more excited to have Ridiculously Raw, Cerebral Smack Talk, College Football Thursday, NFL Friday. Oh boy, boys, buckle your seatbelts, gentlemen, because we're going to be in for a wild and bumpy ride, and I know we all couldn't be any more delighted about it. So, all right, that puts the bow on this edition of Ridiculously Raw. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. So until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk, it's Ridiculously Over Anthony Florio, for the Cerebral Viper Michael Fletcher, for the Phenom Michael Bullock, and in spirit, the Twisted Angel Dee Dee Woodson, the official First Lady of the Wrestling Forum, and the Hardcore Pipe Bomb Imperial Grand Poobah Derek Ferreira. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Cannot stress that enough. And until tomorrow night for the Cerebral Smack Talk, you've been watching Ridiculously Raw right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube.com. And remember, no matter what anyone tells you, wrestling is indeed actually real. Good night, everybody.